Hi, Chuck Thomas here, and I wanted to just give a quick little talk about the way the architecture of my game setup is for the data. And so I'm just to give you a brief 15-second overview or 30-second, whatever. I'm making a language learning game that is intended to help study and drill Japanese vocabulary and learn vocabulary. Honestly, the goal of the game was to make it for myself first, and then hopefully it can help other people to make it available. That I really want to be able to watch anime without subtitles. But I also enjoy learning languages, and if I could put together a game that you play the game, and as you beat each boss, your fluency in the language actually increases, then I think that would be a really fun and exciting uh, thing to have, and a lot of people could use it. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do. I'm building it in Unity, writing it all in C Sharp, but also I have to manage a lot of data with this. So it's not, games have an environment, they have characters, they have graphics and all that, and some gameplay. But obviously, with language learning, you have a lot of uh, data, such as the vocabulary. And here in Google Sheets is some of the Japanese vocabulary that I've loaded in. I could give another talk on that sometime of, I found it really handy to use things like Google Docs for some quick data management if you need to in games or apps, because you can put it together and you can even hand this off to other people really easily. Just send them a link and say, hey, could you, if you have someone who's working with you to manage the content, manage the data. They don't have to be getting into Unity. They don't have to be doing anything else. Obviously, if this were a large game company and not just a single person developer, we would have a software team that would probably be working on editing tools, and they would probably be building a custom app to manage this stuff. Well, I don't have that, and if you're watching this, chances are you don't either. So I found this to be Google Sheets to be a really good way to manage data. Google has a JavaScript-like API that you can use for either exporting you can write your own code to export the data in JSON, CSV, whatever you want. So I have scripts, which I could go over that sometime, and scripts that make this data available as well, except what I am doing though, here let me pop up my architecture, is that there is an API that Google makes for Google Sheets that allows any app to make requests and get the data out of the sheet and treat it kind of like a database. So I have the vocabulary data going from Google Sheets into a Node app. And then initially, I had this set up to where the Node app was running a little express HTTP server so that my Unity game could make requests, like say it would start up and say, give me all the vocab data, and it would make an HTTP REST call, which would return a JSON payload of all of that data from that vocabulary sheet. So the Node app is actually what takes care of translating the Google Sheets into JSON and then spitting it back out. But I've been running like that for a couple of months here, and it's worked out pretty well. But then making little changes. I actually kind of had the code ready to go from another project I was working on, so I knew how to put this together really quickly, which is kind of why I did it that way. But as I got to thinking about it more, I thought, well, I don't really want it to be this way in the long run because I don't want the Unity game to have to constantly rely on this Node app. I mean, it's okay to call a backend service to save player data, refresh player data, things like that, but the vocabulary is not going to change. If a vocabulary needs to change during the course of gameplay, that would be an application update or a patch that would go out. So What I decided to do then is that let's still keep it in Google Sheets to manage the vocabulary data and other data, such as in the game you pick up these chests, and these chests, when you open them, have vocabulary cards, different words that you can unlock. And I thought all of this could exist in a data file, text file inside of the Unity game. So I took out the HTTP REST section. It still exists actually for player data, but I then changed it so that it dumped out the files to JSON. And I'll show you that there. And what it does, the Node app physically on my development system sits near the same, on the same drive with the Unity game development. So all I have to do is run a node command, and when I start this up, it dumps all of the files such as the vocab.json into the resources, and then Unity pulls that up and runs it. Let me show you that real quick. In this video, I want to keep these videos really, really short and try to focus on just one thing. So I'm not going to get too detailed. I don't want to do a long walkthrough, but if anybody wants to see a longer walkthrough or a more detailed walkthrough on how I do things, please, put it in comments or, let me know, and I'll be happy to explain that. This is by no means a finished product, so I don't want to, you'll see a mixture of some code that is in various states of development in here. So this is an app, this is code that was an HTTP REST-oriented app, and it's now being brought over into exporting files. I try to use the minimal work to get change functionality that I can. So I have this export to files. First, I have this thing up here when the system initializes, it loads from Google Sheets. And there's a whole Google API that actually gets that data. Let me actually show you that real quick. Go to Google Sheets. And here we have this code, this load data code, which does the calls, and it uses the async await API to, or the functionalities of the newer, I think it's ES6 JavaScript, and to go and get the data. And then so it's pulling in all of the rows here. This load data is actually something I wrote as an overall function that just handles the work of going to the Google Sheets, making the connection, pulling in the data, and then you pass into it a function that says, okay, with each row of data, what do I want to do with it? So it basically pulls it out, builds it into an object, and puts it in the store here. So, oh yes, you can see my get text to speech. That's something I'm starting to work on with Google's API. Really exciting stuff. Let's get back to the app here. So we load all the data from Google Sheets, and then it really didn't take much. I just pulled in the FS library, file system library, and instead of, you can see I still have my endpoints up here for getting the JSON data. I haven't taken those out yet because I wanted to test it out for a little bit. This is the endpoint that would be called to send this data.vocab. So now, instead of doing that, it's really easy. I just write out the file into a string. And then if you go over here into my game project, Purple Ocean, that's sort of the name of my game development that I've always kind of had, always kind of wanted to do something under that name. It's one of those things that may never actually see the light of day, but anyway, it'll be somewhere in my development. In resources here, you can see I've got the vocab file, and you can see that gets put there. So anytime I go to the Google Sheets and want to change any of this, All I have to do is rerun the Node app and it will refresh this and update it, and then the game can pull it in from there. And the game pulls it in. Let's pull up player data. I've got this load player data where, again, this was the code's kind of structured to pull in from an HTTP data point, but I have refactored that to pull from files. And so if we go to the dictionary loader, load vocab right here. So I have, this is what takes the JSON data and it just does the processing to get it into the game from JSON. But let me show you where I'm calling that at. So up here, my game initializes the main controller. And again, some of this is going to look like a mess because it's all in progress. And that's kind of what I wanted to do with these videos. This isn't a thing where I've made a sample tutorial project to show you a point and illustrate it, and it's all encapsulated to do, show exactly this point. This is actually letting just me sharing with you what's going on in my game development journey, and hopefully you'll find it beneficial. Let me know if you do in the comments, and I appreciate it. So that's it. That's all I wanted to show you was how my data architecture was flowing and how I changed it and why to be from an HTTP REST service over to just dumping files into the game, so that now I don't have to worry about, in the game's life, worry about all of the extra network traffic from loading up static data that isn't going to change from time to time. Thanks.